Yeah, so I can kind of go into, the main thing that I, just assumed. And, that was really thinking that a security alert was just definitive, that was it. It was a definitive statement of truth rather than, a starting point that required additional investigation or validation. So for example, if a critical alert fired, it was to me an automatic all hands on deck. This is urgent. We need to drop what we're doing and, look at it immediately. That's not necessarily the case. Kind of working in the field more, a couple of years now, an alert really indicates that there may be an active threat or there might be some behavior that's anomalous. But at the end of the day, you can't just assume that. You've got to dig into the logs and validate that before sounding the all hands on deck alarm. So, for example, if we get a critical severity alert for a user escalating privileges to a domain admin, generally not great to see, but take a step back before sounding the alarm. Look at your other areas of information. For example, if this is a new user or a new account that has never been seen, check the help desk ticket, see if there's an add user request for that. In an audited environment, usually you're required to keep a record of all onboarded employees, and same thing if they're leaving, can keep a record of their accounts been deleted. Check for a new user request for that user. If it's an IT user, then suddenly, giving them a domain admin or another privilege, it makes a little bit more sense. Yes, it's expected, but again, validate, what does that look like? Reaching out to the IT team. Hey guys, are you hiring this new admin that requires these privileges? Reach out to the identity and access management administrator that granted those privileges. Hey, I saw your account added so and so to the domain admins group. Was this you? So it's good to validate. Now on the other hand, if you see a teller's account getting elevated to a domain admin, probably a good time to involve the rest of the team and maybe look at disabling that account. Another example, if a user is logging into a new endpoint for a first time, if that's not necessarily a critical alert, but if you see that alert in your environment, again, take a step back, don't assume the worst. Kind of, especially for new analysts, again, I'm going to reiterate, learning your environment is crucial. Learn IT's naming convention for your assets. If the user is logging into, first initial, last name, laptop dash new, if the user is logging into their own new computer, yeah, it's going to be anomalous because your system hasn't seen that computer in the environment before. But
Hmm.
if they're getting a new computer, if there's a hardware request saying, hey, so and so is getting a new computer, not as much of a big concern if they're logging into their own new computer. It's normal behavior. On the other hand, if there's a privileged account or a service account logging into a random, back office's user or computer for the first time, again, a little bit more anomalous. Potentially want to, start looking into that. And as a SIM SME, I really wanted to, touch on this. Rule tuning and rule creation are very important parts of managing a SIM. Don't alert on something just for the sake of alerting on something. You can, turn on all these rules and say, hey, look, guys, I have 500 rules turned on and we're going to be getting alerts for all of these rules. Again, that's great, but are those rules actually benefiting your team and are they benefiting your organization? Or are they just creating noise? If your SIM product has all these, vendor created templated rules, don't just turn them on because they exist. Evaluate them, see if, it would fit your environment. Does it add value to the environment? And more often than not, you're going to need to tune them anyways to kind of fit your environment's behavior. So coming full circle, yeah, just to getting the most value out of the rules, alert on activity, like I said, that's, uncommon or anomalous because alert fatigue is 100% real. So if you have all these rules created and you're alerting on all these alerts that are just IT and your end users doing their job. When an actual true positive alert comes in, it's more than likely going to get missed because your teams are just trying to, keep the dashboard clean and they're just trying to close all these alerts. But to kind of wrap up my segment here, I think no tool is 100% perfect. So, again, if an alert triggers, more likely than not, you're going to want to validate it just to confirm instead of, right off the bat, sounding the alarm.